Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the channel. I'm Jack Bigadoo, also known as the Hood Sommelier. If you're here, thank you for joining us. We are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, we are also on Twitter. So wherever you're following us from, thank you so much. And join us for an amazing next hour of fun conversation and learning more about this brand that has been lingering around the whiskey industry but have so many amazing expressions that I don't think a lot of people in the industry talk about enough. And I wanted to take a moment to highlight it, talk about it, bring you guys up to speed to it. And with me today, I'm bringing a brand ambassador. This man knows his stuff. He knows a bunch of stuff. From 2017, he's been around Bean Suntory, and as of last year or a year and a half ago, he's taken over the side of bourbon that he's educating people all around the East Coast on. And I want you all to actually take your time and get to know Tim, get to know this brand. Let him tell us about it. And hopefully, by the time we are done, we are running to go grab our bottles and to hopefully try it and learn what this taste note that we are going to talk about are really, maybe know if we are actually full of it or this is actually as good as I make it sound. Ladies and gentlemen, let me with a big honor. I wish I had like a clapper. I need my clapper back so I can bring on Mr. Tim Heuisler. Like I had to literally train to say it like Heuisler or Heuisler, and I'm like Heuisler. Let's go Heuisler.
How's it works? You don't need a big clapper round of applause. Don't get crazy. But the U throws people off. I always tell people it's Heisler. It rhymes with the car company Chrysler.
Chrysler. Okay.
But the U's a weird one. I know that. But Jack, how are you, man? Thank you for having
Wow.
me tonight.
Dude, I am so good. If you guys are here right now, some of you may know Tim. You may know Tim, but if you don't, Tim, can you tell the people who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Tim Heuisler. I'm tuning in from my beautiful apartment in Brooklyn, New York. If you couldn't tell, originally from Philadelphia. Jack, as you mentioned, I was joined Beam Suntory just over 6 years ago. Prior to that, I was about 13 years in hospitality and been working on the small batch American whiskey brands, representing Fred and Freddie No. So originally I was brought on covering the East Coast of the United States. I'm now on the global team, so doing everything from international expansion, launching these new amazing brands with Freddie. It's really cool, man. I get to learn a lot from our folks in Kentucky and bring it to the world, whether it be in person or here logging in on the computers, in many
No,
ways.
I appreciate you taking your time on this beautiful Monday to come talk to me. Hardin, you know, now for people that don't understand, I know, but let's kind of give people a little bit of a synopsis of what this thing looked like. Because when I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine one time, and I'm like, he showed me a bottle of Booker's, and I said, "Oh, that's Beam Centauri." And it's like, "What is Beam Centauri? This is just Dim Beam?" And I'm like, "Okay, maybe we need to make this make sense to the average person that is looking at this brand as a whole.
Yes.
What's the top? What's the regular brand that people may know, and what are the branches that come under that brand? So it makes complete sense for someone."
Yeah, it's funny. I live in my little bubble of Beam Suntory, so I just assume, but that's the bubble I live in, right? So even as a longtime bartender and restaurant manager, I could get a little confused with different suppliers and maybe structures of larger spirit companies. So Beam Suntory is our parent spirits division. Suntory, Japanese holding company, and Beam, America's longest and most prolific American bourbon distilling company, joined forces. It was before I joined the company. I'm going to mess up my math. Roughly 10 years ago. All right. And so
Yes.
under that Beam Suntory umbrella, we have distilleries around the world. So obviously under the Suntory side, we have brands like Toki, Yamazaki, Hakushu,
Mhm.
Hibiki. Under the Beam side here in the United States, Obviously, I mentioned it, Jim Beam, and then all of our small batch brands like Basil Hayden, Knob Creek. You already mentioned Booker's, Baker's, a new brand that we're going to be talking about tonight, Hardin'S Creek. But we also have distilleries, outside of those two. We also own Lafroig and Bowmore out of Scotland, El Tesoro Tequila down in Mexico, Sipsmith Gin, Cavassier Cognac. So all of these amazing distilleries and brands and spirits all live under that parent company of Bean Suntory.
Yeah.
And then you look at, obviously many other large spirit competitors of ours, but we're all friends. We're all playing in the same sandbox. I like buying other people's brands. We have
to remind people of that all the time. I say, don't you talk crap about a brand thinking that they're not friends. They are friends, and they talk to each other. So don't just say, oh, I'm gonna talk smack about this brand. And everybody is friends with everybody here. So I stay
loyal with my backdrop. I got another room over there where I got some of my buddy stuff. Make sure I know what they're doing too.
Yeah. So, but I'm making sure the people on Instagram, I'm putting in the story so they can join us if they want to. I'm putting the link of the live in, so they can actually join us. But I wanted to make sure, we kind of tell the people what it looks like. So when you're looking at the brand as a whole, don't think, don't just think that that's just a one thing. Beam, Suntory, Booker's, Hardin'S Creek, Claremont Steep, all those are they are all in under the same thing. So just so people understand what it is. But you take care of the small and mighty side, right? Let's go small and mighty. That's
small and mighty, representing the small batch and innovations that, like I said, Freddie know and Fred know, and their whole team is really working and developing on down there in Claremont, Kentucky. So I got to call it out. I'm not a master distiller, right? I'm not a master blender. I don't have a degree in distillation. I came from hospitality, which was a good segue getting into a brand ambassador and sharing great spirits and stories and all the.
And if you guys have any comment or anything, make sure you put in the comments here. If you put it on Facebook or on YouTube, we will read it. We'll see it. If you have any questions for Tim, I will park those and we'll answer later. But today we're here to talk about this innovation. This innovation is what we want to talk about. So Hardin'S Creek came on my radar about 2 years ago. When I originally heard about the Beam box, and that was the first Beam box, like the membership box that people signed up for. That was the first time that I saw Hardin'S Creek. That was the first time I saw a box, and I heard of the thing. I'm like, I'm like, what is this? What is this thing again? For those who don't know, tell us a little bit of what is Hardin'S Creek and how did he come about?
Sure. Yeah. So Hardin'S Creek. So, and also to comment real quick, the box you're probably talking about, that one that you have was, a special one we wanted to send you for tonight's little interview.
Yeah. No, that's not what it looks like.
We do. We also sometimes do a direct to consumer.
Yeah, direct to consumer is what I was talking about. Yeah.
And that depends on what part of the country you're in, if we can do that for you. So understand that's not for everybody, but that's out of my control.
No, but, that direct to consumer works for people that are looking for things that come directly out of BIM, and you tell you if your state is part of it. Nebraska, where I live, is part of it, and if you live in Nebraska, it gives you the opportunity to not go stand in line with everybody. You get a chance to get your product directly from Jim Beam. Any new innovation, anything that they put in that box is kind of cool because they do tell you every quarter what is going to be in the box, so you kind of know what's going to be in there. So,
and I'll let you know that if you are from my home state of Pennsylvania, you cannot do that. So there you go. There's different regulations. But Hardin'S Creek. So Hardin'S Creek came about. I mentioned already a few times Freddie No, our 8th generation master distiller, as he's been really starting to kind of come into his own as not only a blender, but also a master distiller, and kind of showcasing and highlighting different levers and elements of our distillation process and full whiskey making process at our distillery. Hardin'S Creek came out last year, and this is really our, most limited, super awesome limited releases that are really, like I said, each year we are really looking to showcase and bring people along a journey of their American whiskey, maybe understanding and exploration. I think we're beyond the point of just what's the mash bill.
Mm-hmm.
We're well beyond that. We're going well. So now we're
Mm-hmm.
really looking at really cool elements. And as you get into these different releases, if you can get your hands on them, it's like you're really going to start seeing how much goes into creating these whiskeys, right? And we're really calling out different parts of that whole whiskey making journey. And that was the birth of Hardin'S Creek. Hardin'S Creek is where our first farmer distiller, Jacob Beam, was getting his water source from, hence the name was on Hardin'S Creek. And, we're going back to 1795 when he started really producing whiskey down there. So we are no longer sitting on Hardin'S Creek. I have not, taken a sip of water out of Hardin'S Creek, but this is where our first original water source was that creek in Kentucky.
So, Brent, something also I want to mention to people that I personally, as a consumer, respect about Jim Beam or the Beam family as a whole is every single release has something to do with the family history. It doesn't matter what it is. If you packed up everything that come out of Jim Beam, you will know everything about the family. There's always one element that is so personal to them that once you ask the origin of it, you will know, oh, this has something to do with great grandpa or grandpa, and every name of Booker's have a story behind it. Every single release. So keep that in mind as you buy Beam product. Just be curious and go look for it. You'll be surprised what you find out about this. But the expressions we're going to talk about today are quite interesting for one reason. They're all the same age.
Yeah.
But they have something in particular. Tell us about this newest release of Hardin'S Creek. So that come in a set of 3.
Well, so we're selling them as individual bottles. Like I said, you got a nice, beautiful
set.
Yeah, you mean, Jack, you and I were doing a little thing here tonight. So we made a little special delivery box to get to you so we could do this. I don't know if I didn't even get one of those boxes, Jack. The one that you have right there.
Oh, yeah, I mean, this is an influencer special.
That's what that is. I just, I get it. Here, I'll show you. You want to see what you get when you order for the company? You get it sometimes in just a plastic bottle like that. So you get way cooler packaging.
Not for sale.
Yeah, right. But this year's release is called the Kentucky Series. And so if you were to, and you've been down to our distillery in Claremont, we're about 35 minutes south of Louisville, right? But if you look at our full range of properties and production, we actually have warehouses in 3 different kind of towns in Kentucky. So we have Claremont, Kentucky, which is where if you come on a tour, VIP experience, you want to come to our restaurant, Claremont is our home base. That's our campus. That's our big welcome sign, our gift shop, all that good stuff, right? About 10 miles down the road, we have Boston, Kentucky, which is another one of our major distilleries, which Booker you mentioned Booker was in charge of for many years. And then we also have another facility in Frankfort, Kentucky. That's a little over, I should know this because I just did all 3 today, but a little over an hour away. But with that, each one of these campuses, we're really kind of leaning into like the terroir and how each one of these campuses, the maturation of the warehouses that we have there are quite different. So the whiskey that you're going to taste as you go through these 3 expressions, Claremont, Boston, Frankfurt, this whiskey is all 17 years old. It was all distilled within the same pretty much couple of days, right? And then these barrels went to these 3 different locations for over 17 years. And you can really see how putting them in these different warehouses with different climates and all that just drastically changed the whiskey. So this, again, talking about that, like, you know, full whiskey making process to understand that warehouse placement, barrel placement, and it makes a huge deal, especially over a 17-year time span. So what's cool about this year is we're letting you taste that. We're bringing all three campuses to you.
So to add on to what you said, the craziest thing is that as this, I believe, is the whiskey for the major whiskey nerd. If you're a whiskey nerd, you should own this.
It's pretty dorky. I mean that lovingly.
Lovingly. If you have been in bourbon for a long time, somebody asked me, say, "Oh, I haven't drank Jim Beam since I was in college." I say, I feel sorry for you, because this is the best thing that literally came out of. Because I always ask people, what are the three things that happen in the whiskey industry nowadays? One, everybody rave about a certain age. Two, everybody rave about certain brand, clout. And three, a certain finish, right? But no one really takes their time to talk about, let me show you what is happening to my barrels, depending on where they are, right? With Booker's, we already seen that. With the batching of Booker's, Santa Cut, all, everything that come out of Beam, you're like, oh, they're very, they are proud of how their barreling and their aging process work at Beam. So when I heard Hardin'S Creek, 17-year-old whiskey, aged in 3 different places, I'm like, the nerd in me started getting just excited. I'm like, oh my God, can I taste, we all as whiskey nerd have wondered before, am I able to taste the same whiskey, aged in 3 different places, and figure out which is my favorite campus, or which is my favorite, warehouse, or which is my favorite area that I like it. In single malt, people do that. Oh, I like Highland Scotch, or I like, Space Side Scotch, or I like Isla. But in bourbon, you don't see that often. So this is every bourbon nerd dream come true as far as this is concerned.
Yeah, and I'll say, because also, don't get me wrong, I love me some single malts too. And what's interesting is that, these campuses, we're not looking at, off the coast of an island. We're not looking at, we're talking, this release inspired a recent trip of mine, because I go down to Kentucky quite often. And I said, all right, on one of these days, I want to go visit all 3 campuses in the same day to like feel how the wind is different, to see how the light exposure is different. Each campus, just all of that is extremely varied.
Correct.
And so I had actually, again, over 6 years, I had never been to our Frankfurt facility. It's not, we don't bring people there for tours. I called up our buddy Mike. I was like, yo, man, can I come visit you for the day? And he's like, yeah. So
what did I do? Well, why are you here?
Why? I was like, I want to see it. I want to feel it. I know, like, it's on the label now. I want to come really make that connection. So it's cool to really, we can read all the info on it, but I got spoiled to go do that. And again, I did all 3 in a day. So, they're not that far away, but they are that different. And that's what to me was really cool.
So we've talked about the whiskey. We've gave you the prefaces. Let's drink. Let's drink. So I will let you tell me the order in which we are going to explore these whiskeys, because honestly, when it comes down to it, I wanna know which order you will go in. I know which order I will go in, but I want to know how would you go in? I didn't even grab a glass.
So, go for it.
I should grab a glass.
Oh, it's fine. A little.
All right, perfect.
So, and we're being recorded and it's live. So I'll be honest. So I woke up today and it was like gonna go to the office, but I work from home.
Yeah.
It was raining in New York. I'm work from home today. I got a nice little setup, and of course, as I'm set up for this 5 o'clock, I realized I only have 2 of the 3 expressions in my apartment
Oh man.
and the Boston because my Claremont bottle is in on my desk at the
The
office from
office.
last week. So, I'm familiar. I have had them, as you can tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
These aren't full bottles at my house, as most things are open. But I would suggest that you start with Claremont.
Okay. All right. So let me start with Claremont. And for
Yeah.
all of you guys who actually do not know, I did review Claremont. So if you're a part of the YouTube channel, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you will see my full review of the Claremont. But if you watch that episode, you will know why Claremont is my favorite. But let's start with Claremont, and I'm very curious because I haven't tasted this in about 2 months, so I'm very curious. So tell me a little bit about Claremont, which is the original tour distillery,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
If you ever go to the distilleries in Claremont,
You're coming to Claremont, and Claremont's cool. Claremont. So this was again. We put all 3 of these out this year, and put them out 1 month at a time. Claremont, Frankfurt, Boston, and the Claremont one again. Our homestead. Like I said, you come to visit. You're driving on site to Claremont, and I think what's really unique about Claremont, it in Kentucky we call them knobs. Like a lot of the campus of Claremont is knobby, right? So you have these kind of rolling hills. You have a lot of pockets for some of the warehouses. They might be sitting up against, it's not like a mountain, but a bit of a backdrop to kind of either stop or increase some of that wind flow. There's a lot of tree coverage. So the sun exposure and wind, all of it, I'd say, again, it's not overly consistent with all of our warehouses there because these are big campuses, and Claremont really does kind of sit in these kind of knobby, rolling kind of crevices. So
this is
the reason I like it is because it's such a true expression of, again, the terrain of Kentucky and our home. We got to take a lot of pride in putting that Claremont on the label. So,
man, when I tell you sweet, caramel, mint, nice. I mean, this expression is juicy, right? Nice finish, dry, peppery. It's like I don't know. For me, these Hardin'S Creeks may actually be whiskey of the year. Like they're hard contenders for whiskey of the year. Like I don't know if people understand how good this whiskey, because I feel like no one is really talking about it because they want to keep it a secret so they can actually keep the buzz. Because I asked 2 people that bought bottles, and I'm like, why didn't you post about it or made a review? It's like, no, I don't want people to know about this thing. I want to keep it a secret.
We were down in Kentucky. I told you before we went live. I was down there last week, and a lot of our had dinner with a bunch of sales members, and the bar had the Claremont and Frankfurt releases by the bar, and they were like, "Oh, we haven't tried those yet." I'm like, "Well, you probably want to," and so I got to do it 2 of the 3 with, and same thing. They were like, they said you're really not. You're kind of underselling these.
You are. I'm telling you right now. Like when I'm telling people to go grab these bottles, like we haven't seen it in Nebraska. So I'm like, if you get a chance to grab these bottles, you buy it. You buy it, and you don't even argue.
Yeah, these are like I said, these bottles at my house are open. I know we're tasting these tonight, but these are ones that typically don't last on that shelf behind me too long as I start having some friends over. You know what I mean?
I'm telling you, 200. And the funny thing is, the funny part or the coolest part is in good Beam fashion, they give you how many months this was aged, and it's 204 months.
That's right. We don't put a massive 17-year on the label. So these are the bottles you get in store, the 750s. Hopefully it's kind of it's on the bottom here. It says age 204 months.
204 months. Yeah.
And so this is also a nod, back to, we think of we're kind of in the second golden era of bourbon right now, right?
Yeah.
We go back to at a time when our whiskey wasn't so popular and wasn't in such high demand as it is now. And so we started having decanters, and we switched from a year age statement to a month age statement.
Yeah.
And so also a tip of the hat to, generations of whiskey makers that, weren't moving as much of maybe the whiskey that we wanted to. So putting the age statement on, it's pretty cool. If Freddie were on here right now, because Jack, I think you and I might have done a little powwow with Freddie as a larger group.
That's why I know a little bit about it.
He would call me out for not being able to do the math too quickly on
200
to year conversion. But come on, 204. I mean, not everyone's
204 is a hard number to divide, especially by 12.
Yeah.
So if I look at it, I'm like, 10 years is 120 months. So I got that. I can do that math. And I'm gonna add another 70 times 7 is 70. So that's 190. 70, so 190 month. So that's where I'm gonna be. 17 months, but the rest I don't know.
I know it because I have to. We talk about it, right? I had to do that when we're just designing these labels. But it's the age statement is small because it's not for this release in particular. We're really driving that campus series. We're driving that Kentucky series.
Where would you find 17-year-old Jim Beam, 17-plus-year-old Jim Beam? Where would you find that?
Well, it doesn't exist because
it doesn't exist. That's what I'm trying to tell people. Like, it doesn't exist.
Right.
It doesn't. And
right.
Jim Beam White Label is probably is top 3 bottles you find anywhere in the world. Jim Beam White Label, top 3 brands you find anywhere in the world. I'm talking about middle of nowhere, and I travel around the world, and I went to places where I'm like, ain't no way they have any American whiskey here. Do you know what's on the shelf? Jim Beam White Label. And I'm like, how? So to have that at that 17-year-old age, dude, like, it's a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is, we talk about that, and on the Beam front of being the world's #1 consumed and recognized bourbon is incredible. And same thing with you, Jack. I'm very fortunate to travel around, and I'm sometimes like, oh my, I can't believe there's any bourbons or American whiskeys in whatever nook and cranny I find myself in, right?
Yeah.
With Hardin's, though, we're talking about barrels and whiskey and elements of exploration that's not anything that Jim Beam's ever going to do, right? This is a whole different level of it, and it's awesome that Freddie and his team have the ability to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's been a long time before we'd be able to release something like this, so it's cool. It's really cool.
What are we trying next?
So I would suggest having the Frankfurt next, which is what I poured myself.
So Frankfurt is just now hitting the market. I think it just hit the market, right?
Yeah. Yep. The second release.
Frankfurt, for all the people that are looking, and if you're, we don't have it's 4:00 in most places, 5:00. I'm sure a lot of people are not pushing to come on YouTube. But if you're watching the recast, if you hear Frankfurt of the Hardin'S Creek, right, is on the market right now. Do you know which markets they're on right now? Which market has those?
I'm going to politely try to shoot a message right now because I don't want to misspeak.
Okay.
I'm going to try to get a quick little rundown. I might be able to find it on a spreadsheet on my computer, but I'm not going to misspeak. It's probably in about 10 markets right now.
Okay. Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Just want to make sure we know people that are liking, sharing, appreciate it. We have some few people on Facebook that are watching right now. But if you just now joining, Tim is from Bean Suntory. We talking about Hardin'S Creek. This brand is making a splash. We are tasting the expression now. We are tasting the Frankfurt. That's just hit the market. So I'm telling you right now, you 17-year-old or 204 months. Let's be put that 204 months.
You gotta throw into your chat. Who can do that if they haven't already heard? Who can do that math?
and we are these are the Kentucky series, the three major campuses that Jim Beam have. 204 months age. This is pure, unadulterated, beautiful whiskey made. I'll even dare to say, if we go back, this will be whiskey made probably by Booker. No, like that back.
Yeah, 17 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. This was I mean, the Frankfurt one, and again, as we talk kind of about the campuses, this one I'm pretty keen on this one. Our Frankfurt campus sits right you kind of roll over this hill, and then you're like looking down onto the campus and the warehouses, and they sit right on the water, right? So our warehouses being that close to the water, there's just a lot more moisture in the air.
Right? The first one, which was we tried the Claremont. The Claremont was bright citrusy. This one is a little more like is like there's a little tartness, but it coats your mouth quite heavily.
I think the body on this one, for me, I really love the body. Like it has a bit more different weight to it.
Weight, yeah, that's definitely the word. Is weight. He has some weight to it.
Mm-hmm. And I think sitting down, I got to speak with Freddie and a few of our kind of warehouse team members of, that moisture content sitting by the water. It's probably a slightly slower and lower cook compared to the other two, right? So you can talk about warehouses and the climate ins and outs that it sees over the years. These ones were probably a little less drastic.
Oh yeah,
just based on,
but just a little slight thing that makes an impact to it, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think the weight on this one's really, for me, this one I really gravitated towards, and every time I revisit these, because they change, our palates change, and Monday at 5:45 versus Saturday night at my buddy's wedding. I'm tasting things a little bit differently right now.
Correct. So, but I will tell you right now, even the nose on Frankfurt, the nose is really pronounced.
Like cool. These I don't think we might have mentioned, but these are all 110 proof.
Yeah, all 55.
Yep.
You get the cinnamon note on this. This actually remind me of more walking into a bakery. This is, like more of those cinnamon note, those, chewy, wheat kind of ish note that you actually get on the nose versus, the Claremont that is more like, hey, I'm bright. I'm kind of cool over here. This one is more like, yeah, you will have to respect me. Yeah.
I like that.
Heavy cinnamon. It command respect. That's what you get on the nose. Like I'm sophisticated. I'm heavy. You need to drink me to understand me. I love that. Those heavy bacon spices and cinnamon notes that you get on the Frankfurt. So for all of you guys watching, Frankfurt is new. Frankfurt just got released about a month ago on the market. You cannot, I'm telling you right now, 17-year and plus Jim Beam. Like these projects that you guys have to understand this. So I said this before, and correct me if I'm wrong. To understand what's happening at Beam is to understand the evolution of Gen X, Gen Z, and millennials, right? Because If you look at Booker No, Fred No, and Freddie No, the style of which they are approaching whiskey is completely like their own. Like no one is trying to copy somebody else. The base of believing in family and believing in the structure is there, but everybody have their style. I knew Freddie was a different person, a different view in whiskey when I had Little Book chapter 5, I believe. And I was like, rice wine? Who's using rice in whiskey? Right? Who's this crazy person trying to bring something new to the market? Right. And then Hardin'S Creek. And I'm like, okay, what is he trying to do here? So I understand, the traditionalism that Fred No kept with Booker's, right? He wanted to make sure something that is traditionally stayed there. Freddie No is like, well, I'm going to keep tradition, but let me show you how the evolution can happen. Let's try something different. Let's go crazy.
Yeah, and I think it's you're spot on. I mean, he really is. And I every time I get to, meet with Freddie and chat with him, he really, he doesn't stop, tinkering and thinking about what else is possible. And, there's a reason, that other project you mentioned, Little Book, is called Little Book, is because, that was his nickname. I mean, he does have Booker had a lot of very different innovations, a different way of looking at the distillery. And I think Freddie's taken that approach of just not only looking at the distillery differently, but just looking at American whiskey as a category differently.
Correct. Right. And I'm telling y'all, if you're not keeping an eye on Beam and what Freddie is doing, you're missing out on the game. Especially all of you guys, between 25 and 40, y'all need to keep an eye on Freddie No.
Yeah.
Freddie No he's the guy who, I tell people all the time, if Freddie No was describing what our generation is, he's the TikTok version of whiskey, right? He's bringing something new, something different, something that you are not, and you can get addicted to it, right? That's what he is. Fred No is Instagram, right? A Booker No will be Facebook. Fred No is Instagram.
Oh, wow. Still cool. I've never heard that. He's telling Freddie that. I'm telling him that.
He's still cool. He's still okay. We like Fred. But we only use it because he's still relevant. We still love it. But we are with TikTok right now, right? We love that new hype different.
I'm not even on TikTok, Jack. You're making me. I'm not on TikTok. You're making me feel like I'm like,
because you're old school. That's why you're more on the side. Yeah. So that's really how
I like my still photos.
Yeah. Do you have a what do you call it? Do you have a red room where you develop all your?
I used to have a dark room. Now I just got my little pointy room. I'm still. I love it, man. I love taking photos, man.
So
a dark room in New York. I ain't got anything. I like what I do. I don't got no dark room. I got a whiskey room and a bedroom. That's all I got. Yeah.
So the third expression that you guys have not got a chance to try yet, that is going to come on the market. I'm assuming it's dropping now soon.
Yeah. So actually, I'm looking at my calendar. So July. So Boston is in the world. I'll just say it's we say September 1 release, but we always know it can take a bit of time to get out to people.
Probably October, but that's
I was going to say, hopefully the Claremont and Frankfurt ones you can see in Boston. We do need to always tell people this is Boston, Kentucky.
Boston, Kentucky.
I'm sitting here wearing a Philadelphia Phillies hat. I realize that.
This is not Boston,
Boston, Kentucky. Gotta always let people know that.
Oh, don't worry, my man. Somebody just say, "Oh, I'm jelly about the Hardin'S Creek samples." Don't worry. I'm telling you right now.
Only Jack has that.
Right? Yeah, dude. I'm telling you right now. I feel, and I tell people this. I never take things that I have for granted. This right here, I'm privileged. I'm one of those privileged people that can say that they have a sample of each single one of them. And, I I'm happy to talk about it. And that's the reason why I wanted to have Tim here. So the words knows about this, because I cannot be the only one holding on to this. And I like I said, a lot of people are not talking about this bottle, because this is one of those bottles that by the time people knows about it, and I hate to say this, is going to be on a secondary market selling at thousands of dollars, and no one knows where to find it. Like, it's one of those things that went under the radar. And one day, I bet you Fred Minnick, what do you call it, World of Whiskey, what do you call it, San Francisco Whiskey Competition, giving this Whiskey of the Year. And then next thing you know, everybody's crying they wish they had this.
I hope you're right. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm
telling you right now. Yeah. If I was judging, I judged the Ascot Award, I'll judge a Bevy Award. If I wasn't in an award competition and this come my way, I'm giving it a gold. You get a gold immediately, just based on taste.
I mean, I'm not going to argue. I won't argue on that one. And I'll say too, because I know out there in the world it can be tough. You know, we're doing 3 different, but we know there's certain bars, restaurants that might, get their hands on it, which is great. That's, why we support some, our local whiskey bars, things like that. So we know it's tough to get all of them. So hopefully, your local bar, restaurant, get together some buddies. You get one, your buddy gets the other, your other buddy gets the other. So you can all come together and try them. So
can you show the bottle one more time? We're talking about the design. Let's show the design on this bottle too. Is quite particular.
Yeah. So it's cool.
Yeah.
My light's kind of bright.
No, we can clearly see it. Let's show the design, because when I'm looking at the top, show the top, because the top for me is the coolest part. You have the leather house. Yep. Yeah.
Kind of leather band on it, which is cool. It says for me, I call this our little bottle bolo, a little bottle bolo tie on there. And then when you look at this kind of these subtle backgrounds, you'll see these kind of rolling hills, or again, these knobs of Kentucky behind each one of these. But it's very kind of, a bit of a collage. And if you look at, I have, I got the other last year's Hardin's here as well. This was the 184-month-old.
Correct.
One you and I tasted last year. Yeah. We did two releases in 2022. We have obviously our Kentucky series, our 3 releases this year. And so each year, these expressions and these highlights and levers of the whiskey making process are going to be showcased. So as you see this series build out, you're going to see some really unique and interesting styles of American whiskey coming from the distillery. So it's cool because people go, and to call out a brand you talked about earlier, Jack, like you get a batch of Booker's. It's always booked, like
it's consistent.
Hardin'S Creek, the point of Hardin'S Creek is to showcase. You're talking all over. With this series, a physical, geographical map, but also from a flavor and whiskey making perspective. And so now we'll get into the Boston.
We're trying Boston.
Kentucky. Yep. So Boston is also known as our Booker No facility, because this is where Booker really got his chops, and he really learned the ins and outs of the distillery.
Whoa.
Right?
Whoa. So the finish on the Boston.
So this isn't it. This one really, compared to the other two, is,
oh my God.
Entirely different.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
My God. You know what? When you trying all 3, that's where you realize what's different. Claremont, front palate, sweetness, brightness. You have Frankfurt, which is the meat, middle palate, very coat your mouth, ready to go. Boston, the finish, the real Kentucky hug that we talk about is here. Holy crap.
So the Boston campus, it's like a windstorm. the Boston warehouses, the way that they sit, it is airflow. So I talked about maybe Frankfurt being a bit of a slow and low cook. The Boston facilities, because of wind flow, airflow, it's just these barrels are seeing different extraction, different levels of extraction and flavor come from those barrels.
Let me have some water. I need to.
Yeah, we get a water sip too.
Wait a minute. Like this cannot be right. There's no way they're like, it's like having 3 different personalities.
Oh yeah, it's cool.
Oh,
and again, and I was trying to. I don't want to be. I don't remember if it was the same like 24 hours of distillation on these barrels, but I mean we're talking like these were all distilled. I want to say within the same couple of days of one another before getting put into these 3 different campuses. If it was to the exact day, I need to go back and find that out. But, we're talking the same, really same, distillation, people overseeing that distillation. So I don't think we didn't time stamp the barrels to the minute. Ooh. 17 years ago. I know that surprises everybody out there, but,
Dude, the finish on this one. If you like that Kentucky hug, that what I like to call a little bit of licorice, peppery, cinnamony, anise finish with a little bit of that hug right here. I'm telling you. So to put it in perspective, if you like bright notes on your whiskey with the sweetness, still have that hug to it, Claremont. If you like to chew on your whiskey, like you're somebody who chews your whiskey because he has a body. Yeah, that's him. Tim loved chewing on his whiskey, like to feel the body. That's Frankfurt. If you're a Finnish person, this is it. Boston. Yeah. I'm telling you, like it's one of those whiskey. Like I would tell you, regular day, long day. I need to think about it. Day. That's
I guess I did have a long day today. Today was quite long. Even though I work from home, it was still.
But I'm telling you right now, it's one of those things where I'm just like it makes you like try the whiskey and just sit on it for a little bit to get all the notes and all the things that you need in. And whoa, this is good. This is good. This is not
and all uniquely their own, which is why I like doing a lineup. It's cool.
I'm telling you, it's like 3 different things. The real magic is what I'm doing here.
Did you just put all 3 together? You did,
exactly.
Didn't you?
Exactly.
There's always one of them when we do these tastings, and they put them like
you have to. It's weird not to.
That's very Freddie No of you. That's very Freddie No blending mentality of you.
You have to. You have to put all 3 together to see what happens.
I have 2.
You have to just to see what it tastes like when you get all 3, 17-year-old, 3 different, blend all those together and see what we're looking at. Oh man. This is what God intended bourbon to be like.
Ooh. Now I know I'm going to the office tomorrow. I got to get the Claremont bottle that I left over there. So, because I want these bottles to go down at the same rate. You know what I mean? Like I like doing it as the line. I got to have them go down.
Whoa. Okay.
How'd that blend come out?
Okay. Okay.
And now people probably also can understand if they did that, why the art of making batches of, it doesn't always necessarily say the word blend on the front label, because it's just not something we typically see in the bourbon world, but
Yeah.
or any whiskey making world. But finding the balance of these barrels or warehouses or any of it is no small feat. I mean, the size of our
It's
team that
not.
does this is
It is not.
big. It's a big crew we got down there, making sure when you pick up a bottle, it's, same
I'm,
quality we're
I'm,
looking for. So it's
I'm telling you right now, I'm holding them like 3 babies right now, but I'm telling you, these hardened creeks,
too.
these hardened creeks that you see here are definitely, most definitely whiskeys you have to look for in 2023. If you're truly a bourbon lover, I'm telling you right now, and this is, mark my words, this is gonna be the whiskey that people a year from now are gonna start raving. You remember I still remember when Henry McKenna was bourbon of, no, let me even do it best. We're talking to Bean Suntory. I
No,
remember
I know that whiskey. Yeah.
I remember when Booker's Rye was released the first time. Everybody was like, "Oh, I don't know about that." Oh my God, this is just a whiskey. Only the true Jim Beam Booker lovers were like, you know what? I'll do everything to find me one. Okay. I remember that. Even I was those people like, oh.
And also I bet you're one of those sneaky ones that I'm not going to ask to go see your full shelving back there, but I bet
But here's what I'm saying.
you probably got a couple
5
of
years, 5 years goes by, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 years goes by, and people started going, "Oh, I had a chance to try this thing on my buddies." Bar starts serving it for $30 a pour, went to $60 a pour, went to $100 a pour, and now you will be lucky to find it even as a bottle sitting somewhere.
Oh, I mean, it's funny. When I joined the company again, I went back over 6 years ago. I remember joining, and still a good friend of mine. He's still with the company. I'm not going to call him out on recorded YouTube television, but he was like, "Oh man," he's like, "We're so happy you joined. We're psyched that you're moving to New York and covering all the brands." He's like, "Don't let me forget. I have an extra bottle of Booker's Rye. It's got your name on it." Sure enough, I mean, I asked about, and because I was new, so I was like, I don't want to show up to the meeting and be like, "Hey, remember?"
Hey, remember when you said?
Every for the next months, I'm like walking in the meeting, like, "Is it here? Oh, it's not here. Okay, I'll see. All right." Once a month.
Remember when you said?
Once a month, I'd be like, "Hey, did you bring?" "Oh, I forgot it." Okay. And then a year or two later, I'm like, "That bottle's gone now, right?" It's like, "Oh yeah, that's long gone. Yeah, that's okay."
But that's what I'm trying to tell people is that
stop bothering you for it, because I know it's
it
gone.
is one of these bottles. If you don't get yourself some Hardened Creek, that's what happened when Booker's Rye came out. That's what's going to happen to you. So I'm telling you right now, what is the suggested MSRP on these bottles?
$159. Wait.
Again, affordable. Affordable.
Is it 159 or 169? Man, this is why. 169. 169 at a 750 ml. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I mean, again, and I'll be honest, man. Like I said, I know the world of whiskey. I know it's an investment. We know that. You know what I mean? Like,
no, 159 is not a crazy price.
It's not crazy.
I'm just saying right now, it's not a crazy price. A lot of people, there's plenty of bottles out there that are over 159 for a 17-year-old whiskey at 159.
I'll put my, this is one I can really get behind. You know what I mean? Like, it's the the series, the flavors coming out of this, and also just the fact like this does like it doesn't exist as many projects and things that we're working on. Like this is a really, really cool release. I was excited about this when we first started talking about it a couple of years ago. I was excited as we started getting to taste our tiny, these little plastic buds. They'd say, "Oh, what do you think?" Like this series came out great. And so, yeah, I hope people can get their hands on one of them or three of them. I love the idea of getting a bottle. My friend gets the other one, and then we all meet up and we get to have a nice little night together and try all three, right? Like
when I'm telling you right now,
it's some really good stuff. It really is. And I love that it's really like calling out, the places, the campuses, the locations that our whiskey production's happening. So it really pays a tribute to everyone that's doing it and the places we're at.
I will tell you right now, if y'all are here, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here and hanging out with us for the last hour. But there's not enough word to really express how this whiskey came about. Shout out to Freddie for always bringing something new and different to the industry. But I will tell you, there's a few things that come out of Bean. I'm like, I don't know about that. It's all right. And y'all know me. I'm no bullshit. If it's good.
I know you're no bullshit. That's why I was glad to get on here tonight and taste this. Yeah.
If it's good, it's good. If it's not okay, I'll be like, yeah, it's okay. But it will not be my favorite. But I will tell you right now, every single one, and no one ever made a whiskey where every single one has something so special that is like, you know what? If I don't own A, I want to own B. If I don't own B, I want to own C. That's literally what it is. So I'm not telling you to go out and crazy and lose your mind over something, but I'm telling you right now, call your friend, call your mama, call your baby mama, call their baby mamas, and make sure that you actually know where this is. I only have samples. I don't own a bottle, but if I get a chance to get a bottle, I'm getting immediately. Like literally, I remember I just came, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was at the distillery. So of course I get the distillery, and I do the tour, and
Did you go to the new FBN craft distillery where Freddie's overseeing it?
No, we did that in February, the new one.
You did. That's what I was saying. You saw that. Okay. I thought you had.
We saw the new one. But the funny thing is, as I walk in thinking I'm Mr. Influencer, and I walk to the counter and I say, "Hey man, do you have any Hardin'S Creek here?" And he's like, "Oh no, we don't have that here." And I'm like, hey, go look in the back and see. The look he gave me, like, who the fuck are you again? Who are you? And I'm like, hey, I'm Jack, and I just want to know. You looked in the back, and he goes, "We just don't have any Hardin'S Creeks here. That's it."
The last time I was down last week, but 2 times ago when I went down, I brought a bottle of each of these to have with some of our tour guides, because I was texting them and they were like, it's already left the distillery.
Yeah.
It's already good. It's gone.
It's right there. So the only thing, literally, the guy's like, hey, you want Baker's 13? We got Baker's 13 right here. You can have the Baker's 13. It's right here. But if you ask me one more time about Hardin'S Creek, we gonna fight. Stop asking me about Hardin'S Creek. And I'm like, he tells you how rare it is, because there's plenty of things at the distillery that you can get. Jim Beam is not one of those distilleries that, I would say gatekeep. They usually have things there for you if you're there. If it's there, you're gonna get it. But I'm telling you right now, it's not.
And one thing I'll say is we these are limited quantities because they are limited quantities.
Limited.
We want people to try them.
They're very limited. So for my followers, definitely. I don't know if this is one of those that I can share with y'all, because I will tell you right now, it is that special. I have to keep the rest of my samples.
Well, I'll tell you, if you make your way to Brooklyn, just shoot me a text. You can come swing by, and we'll keep keep whatever I got left, here,
but I will tell you right now, for all of you guys here that are here and are still hanging out with us, we appreciate you being here. Tim, thank you so much for coming and telling us about Hardin'S Creek. You can't leave here without actually us asking. Hardin'S Creek is out. Claremont, Frankfurt, Boston. Anything new coming up that we should be on the lookout for?
I mean, we talked about Freddie. We know that his next chapter of Little Book is going to drop because we do drop one every year.
Yes.
So Little Book Chapter 7 is on the horizon.
When is when is that being released?
It should be October. I mean, it's typically we do it. It's like an October, Little Book's that annual, end of year release. I mean, you just mentioned that you're at the distillery and you saw Baker's 13.
Yeah.
So, if that is at the distillery and out now or soon to be, I get confused because I was just there last week as well, having a glass at the restaurant there. But if I'm being fully, Jack, if it were you and me sitting at a bar, it's a different conversation, man. I'm on a recorded live program. All right?
Okay. All right.
I gotta tell you the things that are already like. This is
for the folks. This is for the folks. We can have the conversation after the show is over, but this is for the folks.
You're making me look bad here.
People can be on the lookout. People can, people. What is just my last question? Usually is always the same. What is one thing that you want people to either know about what's happening at Bean Suntory, or things that they should be looking out for when it comes to Bean Suntory, so they can actually, have a takeaway from beside Hardin'S Creek, so they can actually keep an eye out and go, hey, you know what? I'm really looking forward to this. I never knew that Baker's 13 will come on the market ever again. I'm glad it did. So
that was an exciting one. It was. I guess the big thing is I'll say, I'm getting ready, just coming back from a week in Kentucky last week. If you haven't been to our distillery, one, I highly encourage, if you're kind of on the fence of like, oh, I want to do the Kentucky Trail, I want to do a bourbon tourism thing. I'm telling you,
want
right now,
the Beam,
the restaurant that we opened up coming out of the pandemic called Kitchen Table.
You want to go to Beam for lunch. You want to go to Beam for lunch. That's what you want to do. If you plan your tour, you need to go to Beam, which remind me, I have to send a friend of mine was asking for a recommendation. You want to go to Beam for lunch.
It's awesome.
Whomever they have in the back there as a chef or chef, they're out here, they're killing it.
Fun fact about that restaurant, because with Hardin'S Creek and with all the whiskeys that we produce at our distillery, we use 2 proprietary jug yeast. We don't use brewer's yeast. We don't use distiller's yeast. We don't use enzymes. We propagate jug yeast every week. We only use that jug yeast to make 2 things: whiskey and now pizza at that restaurant. So we're using the same yeast that we make our whiskey with, that we're now making our pizza dough with. So go to the restaurant Kitchen Table. It's badass. And I'd say for anybody,
I'm just going to tell you right now, if you plan your whiskey tour,
Beam for lunch. Gotta go for lunch. Go for a tour and make sure that's
I'm going to tell you right now, Beam for lunch, because I will tell you something.
That restaurant's fire. It's great.
I'm a black man, which means I'm very judgy about my chicken. I'm very judgy about how you fry my food. And I've been twice. And every time I'm like, okay, these people are not going to make, I don't know. The last time I went, I literally went as a test. I'm like, you know what?
Just make sure.
Give me the fried chicken. I will take a leg.
That's what Freddie had last week at lunch.
And I'm telling you right now, I don't know who's in the back in that kitchen, but Adame is out here seasoning her chicken the way it's supposed to be. The Lord was with me with that chicken. So I'm just going to tell y'all right now, if I, as an African man, goes to a restaurant and come back and go, y'all need to go, you need to go. So Beam for lunch. If you visit the distillery, you have, like, I don't care if you're full.
I can't claim a African man review, obviously, looking at me, but I can say I spent many years in restaurants and hospitality. But you are not wrong. It is awesome. And I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And I'm gonna send Chef Brian, I'm gonna send him a text when we're done about that fried chicken.
Oh yeah,
he already knows it.
Just literally, an African man came to your restaurant 3 weeks ago, and he left and said, "Like, I wish I could write a review because I couldn't write a review because I just sent an email back to the PR and say, hey, really enjoyed it, but I wish I can go and write a review and say, okay, I went to Jim Bean, the restaurant, the distillery is okay, but that restaurant though."
The only reason you said the distillery is okay is because
the restaurant was that good.
It's because you had the chicken. Exactly. That's the only reason.
The restaurant was so good, it made the bourbon side just be okay.
It's fine. Yeah,
I came for the bourbon, left for the restaurant.
Right.
So I will tell you all right now, if you have not been to Beam yet, it's only what?
35 minutes south of Louisville.
Yeah, 35 minutes. Heading there now, should be there in 4 hours.
Well, we're not open for dinner. Let you know that.
We're open for lunch, right?
Open for lunch. We do daytime tours, we do lunch, and we close like 6 o'clock. So it is. I will
tell you right now, is one of those things where I when I think of Beam, I never thought that they would have such an amazing restaurant, and I am behooved.
I was there, so I went there. I was laughing. I was excited though. I went there last week. So we had some international employees come over, and I said, "Hey, I'll meet you guys there. We're going to go have lunch with Freddie." And pardon my French, my dumbass didn't make a reservation because I'm like, "Oh, we're going to go to the restaurant on campus with Freddie and some other employees." We almost couldn't get a table.
No.
I mean, there was 6 of us. We did, but they're like, "You got it's a big restaurant, and I mean, it's lunchtime. It was jamming.
It was busy. Even when I was there, I think I was there at 11. I was there at 11 in the morning.
11 to 2 p.m. Man,
and I'm telling you, it was busy. One of the things I always have on my bucket list, which is next thing I'm going to do next time I'm going, is I'm taking my oldest bottles of. I have a friend of mine where we all collect bookers, and I'm taking my oldest bottles with me, and I want Fred No to sign those while we are eating at the kitchen table. And I'm telling you, if you're just a foodie, you don't even care about the alcohol, stop at the kitchen table. You can thank me later. Thank me later. You don't even have to thank me now. You can thank me later. It's one of those things that you will enjoy.
Cool. Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're here for the last hour and little bit, thank you for being here and having with us. One thing I tell y'all is, unlike the regular average YouTuber, I'd love to bring y'all something that is not popular, but it's so special that you guys should actually know about. And that's why I wanted to interview Tim. I wanted to make sure that y'all get a chance to hear about something now that in the future people are gonna hype up and they're gonna go crazy about. And I just want y'all to refer to this interview. Little old Tim, little old me are just talking about Hardin'S Creek, and I'm telling you right now, these 3 whiskeys are gonna make a rumble. They're gonna make a rumble in the whiskey industry, and I want you to hear it here first. So for all of you guys here, like I said before, call your mamas, your baby mamas, their baby mamas, call your friends, call everybody, and make sure that you actually get yourself one of those Hardin'S Creek. You cannot go wrong with any of them. But like I said, if you are a bright taste person, you want Claremont. If you're a body, you love heaviness, you love authority when you're actually tasting, you want yourself a Frankfurt. But if you love really nice Kentucky hug finish, Boston is for you. If you've been here the last hour, Tim told you anything you need to know about Hardin Creeks. He told you everything you need to know about Freddie and what he's doing. There's a lot more coming out of Beam that you need to know. Tim, thank you so much for being here. For all of you guys who don't know, you can follow Tim on Instagram. He's on Instagram. Just type his name, just like you see right here.
You can't mess up that last name.
He's wearing a hat right now, but he have his top model picture with these hair all curled up on his Instagram. You can't miss him. He have his ready for the Bachelor on NBC photo ready for on his Instagram. Make sure you follow Tim. He drops some gems every now and then, so keep an eye on what he posts.
I go in and out of the social. You know what I mean? Like we do some cool events.
Yeah.
But then then I come back. I get into my work zone, and we got to work on some. Everyone thinks being a brand ambassador is all fun and games.
No,
and
it's a lot of work.
That's what you'll see on there is the fun and games part. But like, I'm not leaving this apartment for like the next 10 days.
Yeah, you got to work. You got to work.
I'm working tonight. I'm gonna watch some Monday Night Football. I know that. But like we go back. But I'd like to think we put some fun stuff out there. But Jack, I just want to say thank you for your time, man. You big support of the brands. We love that you take the interest in the time to talk to us about them and learn about them. We got to do a few joint virtuals with Freddie and that, but yeah, man, hope to see you next time. Hopefully next time we're in person. Honestly, I hope it's at the distillery.
I'm telling you, I'm
fried chicken to the test.
All October, I'll be in Kentucky. So for all of you guys who don't know, I'll be in Kentucky. First week of October, I'll be in Kentucky. Second week of October, I'll also be in Kentucky. A lot of things that I have to cover there. I haven't been around in a while, so I'm coming back. I have a couple media tour there in Lexington, and I'm coming down in Louisville as well. So for all the Kentucky people, I'll be in 3 weeks, three weeks in a row. I'll be in Kentucky every other week, just covering a few things. But if you don't make Jim Beam part of your Kentucky tour, I'm sorry. I feel sorry for you.
You're messing up. I agree.
I'm sorry for you. I'm just going to tell you right now. If you have any question, you want to know more about the tour and whatnot, you can DM Tim, or you can send me a message. I'll be more than happy to tell you what you need or should not do or should do. But I will tell you right now, the campus itself, like just park and just look at it in Claremont, is beautiful. It's an experience. It's an experience, and you have to do it. So I would tell you, book yourself a tour and make sure you go visit. For all of you guys here, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you being here. We love and appreciate you supporting the brand, you supporting Beam, you supporting Heuisler, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much, and